Good evening. In order to be able to vacate this is at a good time, when I get moving here. Would you all join me in pledging the flag?
The United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. And welcome to the last River Coalition meeting next year. We've got a pretty full agenda tonight, and I think we've got a treat for you all as well. I'd like to call this meeting to order and welcome you all. We have a new member group, the Culture Shop, and I'm not sure if anybody is representing. Would you introduce yourself?
I'm Joe Thornton. I'm the Vice County Work Fleet for the Culture Shop Club. The river is urgently important to us. We try to spend as much time on it as we can, and figure it out.
Thank you for joining, and we look forward to I'd like to entertain a motion to
Move approval of the membership.
membership. We have a motion in a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Welcome. That makes 94 members now.
Elected officials and or their representatives. Would you please stand and introduce yourselves?
Hi, John Addis, representing Congressman Brian Mast.
Thank you, John.
Becky Brenner, City Third Commissioner.
Thank you. We also have the newly appointed city manager, Mike Rawl, for allowing us to use your facility.
Absolutely. Real quick?
Yeah, please do.
So my wife and I, we came here from Rock Island County, Illinois, right on the Mississippi River, Moline, Rock Island, down toward the Iowa side. And, you know, Mississippi, as you probably know, is the muddy Mississippi. So I'm used to seeing that. When we get down here, and this is almost worse. So I wish this group the best of everything you can accomplish to help the city and to help whoever we have to get to keep the river clean and to do what we can. So I wish you guys the best too.
Thank you.
Would you like to introduce yourself?
And after I pass the sign, she's Good evening, everyone. My name is Brandon Tucker. I'm your new governing board member with the South Florida Water Management District, representing St. Lucie, Martin, Palm Beach, all the way down to the Keys. You all probably know Mr. Kevin Powers. You've served on the board for 8 years, and I have the pleasure of filling his very big shoes on the board on behalf of Governor Scott. So it's a pleasure to be here. I wanted to be here last meeting when Ernie Marks, our new executive director, was here speaking to all of you, but I had another engagement. But I just wanted all of you to know that we're here. I will be available if you have any questions about anything. Later on, I think there's going to be some opportunity to talk about and do a little update. But really, the message I want to give to all of you is, number one, thank you for all that you do in this community. I've lived here for 21 years. My kids row on the South Fork of the St. Lucie River with the Treasure Coast Rowing Club every day. So the water quality, and my parents live on the South Fork, so my father is constantly in there telling me about how awful the river is and you can't fish, and that's the reason we bought that house 3 years ago. So I can assure you, I hear about the water quality not only from our staff at the district, but from my own family on a daily basis. But just want all of you to know that we're here to work with you. We need to be all on the same team. We all have the same goal and objective, which is to get our river clean. So I'm here to do that and here to help you do that. So I just want you to know that I'm here, I'm available. You can find me on the website. You can reach out to me at any time. And it's a pleasure to be here this evening.
Thank you very much. It's nice to know that we have a neighbor on board.
Hey, Mark.
The late guy buys a beer.
Nick, do you want to say something about the river kids?
Me?
Yeah, sure. Okay, so this weekend is Lights on the Lagoon Christmas tree decorating, and River Kids have a tree this year, as we did last year. So if anybody wants to come out and bring recycled materials, water bottles, we want to do it all in recyclables and string lights through water bottles and things like that. So we're still working on ideas, but we want you to bring any recycled ornament, any recycled materials, and come join us. The problem is we don't know exactly when. It's going to be either Saturday or Sunday or both days after 12 o'clock. So I'm going to post that on our Facebook site for River Kids. So go ahead and look at that tonight, tomorrow morning, and we should have a time. Also, I wanted to say that we're very proud that our own River Kids went up to Tallahassee with Jackie Thurlow-Lippisch on Monday night. And on Tuesday, they spoke in front of the Judiciary Committee to propose an amendment, to start the proposal of an amendment for the Florida Constitution to the Judiciary Committee, proposing a right to a clean and healthful environment. So they really did a wonderful job. Jackie has it posted up. You can watch the whole video. And everybody in there knew who the River Kids were. And I guess when they went out of the room, Pam Bondi ran after them and said, I really want to meet you girls, and stuck her hand out and made sure she met them. So we are making a little bit of a difference, and again, it always is the kids' voices that matter. So thank you. And any questions, I have workbooks out front too, and I have a whole bunch in my car if anybody wants one.
Where's the event?
The event, well, you mean at Florida Oceanographic Society. This weekend, the Christmas tree decorating.
Yeah.
So just look on our Facebook site tonight or tomorrow morning, and I'll have it posted. Thank you.
Thank you.
It'll probably be on the FOS site too. Speakers Bureau, Todd, are you here?
I'm going to, in January, I'm going to be speaking to you guys, so.
Fantastic. Todd Weissing runs the Speakers Bureau and our engineer with the Murray Baum is going to be speaking in January on our behalf. And it's a great presentation. If any of your groups want to have a representative from the Rivers Coalition come and speak to you, please get to Todd. Okay, so the Rivers Coalition endorsed this resolution supporting Joe Negron's proposal for the reservoir, and we hand-delivered it to the Water Management District, and I think it's been well received. There's progress going in the planning. I think Mark will talk to us a little bit later about the planning process and where it is right now. But it does look as though there is some light.
And there's copies of it on this back table.
The copies of the resolution. I'm really honored tonight to be able to introduce our speaker. Hal Wanless is a professor and chair of the Department of Geological Sciences, and he's a Cooper Fellow at the College of Arts and Science at the University of Miami. He has an active research program going on right now, documenting historic and geologic evolution of coastal and shallow marine environments, and the influences of anthropogenic stresses and sea level rise to the state of Florida. He's going to speak to us tonight specifically about ASR storage and deep well injection, as well as the future water needs of South Florida and how that relates to sea level change. So he's an incredibly well-known speaker and eloquent as well. He's actively engaged with policy, making it state, federal, and local levels. And please welcome Dr. Hal Wanless.
Oh my God.
No, I'm gonna have to leave. I'm getting thrown out. I'm terribly sorry.
I did that late last night. Well, I'm just I know. I even spelled it right for one of the cool fiance named Bowers. We were driving up. She was studying. Oh yeah, I got it. It's wonderful to be here. Some years ago, maybe around 2000, 2001, a major environmental guy in South Florida said, "Would you speak about ASRs to the Everglades Coalition?" And I said, "I guess so." And I went up to look up and see what ASRs were. I'm a sedimentologist, not a groundwater guy. Well, I learned that they were active for storage, injected, and then recovered. Pull it back when you want it. And so I gave a talk 2 days later for breakfast, talking about deep well injection, because that's the only examples we really had at that point. And I want to start by talking about deep well injection to show you the risks you get into. This is what the engineers said the deep well injection was down at our Black Point sewage treatment plant. We're like, this is what we do with our water, by the way. We partly treat it and then we dump it down. And they put it down over 25 feet, 100 feet below the surface. And in what was supposed to be underneath about 1,000-foot thick aquiclude, low permeability layer. So the water would stay down there. Now realize that the water is salt, so fresh water wants to float in salt water. And they built the first 8 wells like this. And they pump in over 100 million gallons a day now. This is what we do with our wastewater. And then they needed to add another 10 wells, bringing it up to 18. And so then they said, well, I think what we'll do is we'll go down here like we did with the others, but then they decided to pull the end of the pipe back up above this level here. And it turned out the only low permeability zone was about a 40-foot thick layer or less layer here of dolomite, and the rest of it was very porous. Well, by the time they said it would take 343 years for the water to get up to the Florida aquifer, which is an aquifer below the surface that is a little bit brackish. When they looked 11 years later, it was up. And Don McNeil, who's referenced here, he got together Alan Frago with the Sierra Club and asked if we knew anything about this. I said, well, I'll put you with Don McNeil. And between the two of them, Sierra Club digging out the storage and Don knowing the science, they put it together, and it's unbelievable. And then I was asked to talk about ASRs. Well, here's the ASR story. The old one back in 2001. The Everglades restoration was designed to put more than 300 wells that could store water about 1,000 feet underground, and a lot of them were around the edge of Lake Okeechobee. And soccer moms had already gotten to this position. They didn't want to lose water for their children, so that was the end. There's the key. So, children and ticked off soccer moms. Okay? Anyhow, I spent the next several years at giving talks against this stuff at meetings because it wasn't going to clean up underground. And I started to ask a lot of questions. And then I was invited to the National Groundwater Association meeting to give a keynote talk. I said, no, don't know much about groundwater. So I said, okay. So I gave this really simplistic talk that I'm going to give you now. And they thought it was wonderful. I don't know. Okay. And they asked me to write a little thing on the front of their journal points. So anyhow, here was, and I gave these talks for years because everything about it was wrong. And it went away. And then in 2015, it came back. And it came back because they said, I never read this, groundwater modeling indicates that overall number of ASR wells should be reduced from 333 to 131 to avoid the adverse effects to the aquifer, groundwater, and existing users. I've yet to see a real piece of science that says that's what should happen. I think they thought two things. First of all, that all of the griping had gone away and I didn't have to worry about it anymore. And that if we make it small, they'll let it go by. The potential for rock fracturing, you put stuff down under pressure, it can break rock and open up permeability pathways and land subsidence. When you pull it back out, you leave the vacuum resulting from ASR is low if ASR wells are spread at a safe distance and pumping pressures are kept low. Okay. Surface water in South Florida was generally suitable for subsurface storage of ASR systems. However, the presence of bacteria in surface water required treatment prior to recharge into the aquifer for regulatory compliance. Not to make it safe, but just for regulatory compliance. And the ASR systems located north of Lake Okeechobee, Tennessee, upwards of 100% recoverability of stored water. Conversely, brackish quality of the system south of Lake Okeechobee will require successive cycles of putting in, pulling out, putting in, pulling out to achieve this similar recoverability. Okay. And the final thing they said was, based on the study's findings, this is really like, if you read between the lines, it's like you really don't want to do this. But if you're going to do it, it's recommended that you can phase it in and consider incorporating it into other alternatives or as an aspect of planning alternatives in conjunction with residents. So I don't think they really realize they're going to have a problem with this already. Okay? And and you should phase it and have new iterations of groundwater and ecological models once you know how bad they really are. Anyhow, let's go back to the 2001 story. This is what the South Florida Water Management District put out. This is an ASR well going down into the upper Florida. And it's supposed to form, you put it in and it forms a bubble and then you pull it out. Here's their diagram. You pull it in, push it in, and you pull it out. Well, there are a lot of questions. Is this really a really effective confining layer? Well, almost all our limestones have holes in it. And if it goes any lateral distance, it'll find its way out. And you see, okay, and it does, since it's going into saline water, it is going to be more buoyant and want to go on top of it by spreading and up. Okay, and what is the topography? None of these things were known in 2001. I'll put money, not much is known now. No, the topography is not low. So, trying to float the fresh water is going to go uphill. And, how easily will it spread? But They say it will be a permeable rock that just sort of spread out like this bubble growing and growing. Now, the bubble will want to spread, but it wants to float on top, so it's not going to just get bigger and bigger. It's going to try to float on top. And is there a regional flow to the groundwater system? Yes. Okay, I mean, these are really basic things. So these are things that aren't really well discussed. So what this means, what all these things mean, that you over here with your farm is trying to get some water up there now and then, are going to get something that you didn't bargain for, you know, and it may be highly polluted and so on. How will it move away? Well, it is not, the pore system in the rock is dominated by microporosity, really tiny pores between the crystals. And so it won't just spread. It will find layers that are more permeable and it'll spread like that. Okay? And it'll try to stay on top because it's fresh. And so since there's topography and it's irregular, and we have all those other things, what we're going to see is the water moving away like this, or maybe all in one direction if there's an overall flow. Now try to suck that back. Okay? And it leaks. Okay? The injected water will not form a bubble. The injected water will be a series of spreading layers that will move far from the place you put it in. And just realize you won't be pulling much of that back in.
When they pull it out, wouldn't you have like the reverse of a cone of depression? Like when you pull water out, it drops,
Yeah, but-
and that would just suck the brine right up in there?
Yeah, once you start sucking, you'll get this part back. Until you suck here and start sucking hard enough that you get the stuff from below. Absolutely. And you won't get any of this or this or this going that way. Okay? And there are other questions. How much will you get back? Will the pressure of injection diminish structural integrity and increase breakage and leakage of the limestone? We talked about that. And what about the water quality? Well, I mentioned the problem of pollution going in. And they addressed that, saying we have to do some cleaning of the limestone. And there's another problem of leach metals. And when you put fresh water, acidic, down in the limestone, guess what happens? You dissolve the limestone. And the first few times you do that, you get a huge amount of heavy metals and other things that you really don't want in your water system. Okay, and this one's from an article by David Letter in 2006. And it's an example of the percentage of recovery. Here's one down here, it's out in Naples, at 44% recovery after 6 injections, withdrawals, injections, withdrawals, injections, withdrawals. Okay, that's what the 6. 41, 48, 62, 3, 3, 7, after 7% recovery, 9, half, 19, which just means that all the water you injected, you know, 90% of it went to your property next door or somewhere else. Well, you might not have wanted, yes.
Then when you subtract from 100, does that mean the rest is salty water coming back up?
Well, they probably sucked till they got the salt, and then you pull up this cone of whatever you're pulling. So, yeah, that's probably what it means. Anyhow, so this is the reality, and this is why those statements that I gave you early on of what they're trying to do now, what they wrote in 2015, they sound like they're charging ahead with this great idea, but they actually saying very cautiously, this probably isn't the solution.
Somebody's brother that you know of.
Here's my hang out here. Why are we looking for water that we have to store somewhere? Miami-Dade and Broward County partly treat their water. They deep well inject it, or Miami still sends it out to 90 feet of water offshore the reefs and let it out. And they're under court order to clean their water. Well, all they're trying to do right now is clean their water enough send it down to Turkey Point for one cycle of cooling, and then they're gonna deep well inject it. That's not recycling our water. But that's their idea of recycling water. Most places in the United States have to recycle their water, either because they don't have much. Orange County, go read about Orange County, California. They recycle all their water carefully because they need it. They only get so much, and they have a lot of people. But if we would only treat our water to drinking water standards, we could use it all if we need to. Otherwise, we could throw it away somewhere. But we could put it back in the air. Well, that's expensive. We're just getting away really dirty cheap. I don't know what you do with the water here. And we could put it to the Everglades. We wouldn't have to have giant reservoirs. Remember, reservoirs can evaporate about 65 inches a year. So it's okay. That's what the natural surface does. But why are we having these big, in my mind, useless reservoirs? They could be wetlands or something. When we could just recycle all that we use. And I don't know what you do with your water up here. We certainly do a bad job of it. We're sort of the end of the line. Okay? And this would eliminate all these problems that we're worried about, including about limitations on population. A few years ago, Broward 98 wrote the state for an additional consumptive use of water from the Everglades, increasing the amount. And the state denied it. And they were, we're growing. How can you do that? Well, it's time to think differently. So that's all I have to say about aquifer storage. You can ask a couple of questions.
I'm just curious, if the water is going to be that brackish, if Miami's pumping it, other places and that, why would the reservoir not work if it's a dynamic reservoir? If we have clean treated water in the SGAs and the WGAs that we can take back from each other, and it goes in there and it's constantly flowing south with clean water, why do you feel that reservoirs are ineffective?
No, I didn't say not to use surface reservoirs. I said you don't have to. If you're, Miami-Dade Broward probably has 400 or 500 million gallons a day that we throw away. That's a huge amount of water that if we had it piped, we could pipe it back up into the surface aquifer up near.
What about the 10 parts per million that's the only acceptable rate of phosphorus going into the Everglades? Is that going to be able to meet that standard?
Yeah, it's all how you clean it. We can clean to all standards. Totally aside, the big problem with cleaning our water everywhere now is getting out the pharmaceuticals and personal care products. The estrogen, the salicylic acid, the aspirin, everything else, the testosterone, and antibiotics every day. You're drinking those things, but most of even the complete cleaning systems don't get them out. They have some that do, but most have. So that's a big thing for me. Yeah.
I don't know what ARS stands for.
Aquifer storage, ASR, aquifer storage and recovery. It's ingesting the water down to store it, and the recovery is when you pull it back up. And that, I think you can understand now. You put it in, and you'd like to get it back. I was trying to suggest it won't be that simple, and they have some serious problems. Well, speak out. Any other questions? Yes.
So Hal, just on the deep injection well, just to make sure that they know the difference, the deep injection well goes down to 2,000 or 3,000, whereas the aquifer.
Yeah, they're shallow wells. They're trying to find a layer that's either fresh or brackish, not too salty, that has a confining layer over it where they can store something. Now, we store stuff all over the place. We store oil in the salt domes in the Mississippi River because salt has almost no permeability. If you put oil in it, it goes crazy.
Well, if you get it down in the boulder zone, it goes away.
If you put it down in the boulder zone, which is that first two pictures I was showing you, that's a very permeable area, very, very cavernous porosity area. And they said, well, in 300 years, this was the deep well injection in central Dade County, they said that will come out by
a big problem. Even if we have perfectly clean water going into the lagoon, it's gonna kill everything if it's fresh water. So what's the
Well,
remedy for that?
yeah, there are probably two answers to that. One of them is that historically, we had much higher water levels in the wetlands than we do today. West, when you go to Miami International Airport, that was the Everglades until the late 1920s. And we drained it, and water levels dropped 7 feet. We were able to develop Sweetwater and Hialeah and the airport and so on. And so, historically, we had much higher water levels. All along Biscayne Bay, and I would bet all along the bays here, you had fresh water bleeding out through the pores of the rock and the sand. And it was coming out in the bays, which is very different than a point source shot that you get when they decide to open it up like that. And they're trying to work. In a few places in Biscayne Bay, they revert it to coming out through the rock. So it's not this suddenly going to stay
There is a remedy.
Let's let Hal get to the next piece of the presentation.
There's one other thing that no, that's okay. Let me go to the other part of the presentation, and what time we have, we can do things. I was asked to talk about field rods, and I'll be glad to come back anytime and talk about it in more detail. Hey, it's still. See that? Take a picture. Thank you. Say it was a typo, but I don't think there'll be anything you were right. Okay, let me, I don't know how many of you understand climate change is real and human caused or not, but it is real. And I want to show you a couple of important things to help you understand both reality and the seriousness. This is a graph. The blue line is a graph where we put all the controls in that might affect the temperature of our atmosphere from 1900s to the last 2000. And it does not put the buildup of carbon dioxide in. And these models do not show an increase in temperature. There's no way you can manipulate those natural influences on atmospheric temperature. If you add in carbon dioxide, you get the red protection, which is the observed black line protection of our temperature. Okay? The climate is warming. The climate is warming because of the addition of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. And most of it has been in the last century and a half. Okay? That's real. That's fact. Somebody, a British ice scientist said, those that deny climate change, they deny science. The science is so clear on the basic causes and reality of human-induced global warming and climate change. The other thing is that here's what global warming is. It is the sun's rays coming in at all wavelengths through the atmosphere. Some of them being absorbed, some of them bouncing off into the atmosphere at a longer wavelength because it's cool. And that longer wavelength being trapped by certain greenhouse gases, principally carbon dioxide, methane, nitrous oxide, and water. If that was the end of the story, all we'd have to do is accept work to get Richard Branson's prize of $25 million, which is remove 1 million tons of CO2 per year in an economic matter. And people are working hard on it. If that was all we had to do. The problem is, over 93% of the heat produced in the atmosphere by global warming has transferred to the oceans. Now, you have enough memory of physics in high school to remember that water has a huge capacity to take in and hold heat. And that's exactly what's happening. Here's another diagram of the same thing. That's just the heating that's in the ocean since it's back here. And I gave my first talk on climate change about here. Just think if everybody had gotten on board, not because of me, but because we knew the reality. How much less here's another where the heat's going. A few percent to the ice, a couple percent to the continents, and 2.3% to the atmosphere. That's what the Paris Agreement was all about. That part that's remaining in the atmosphere, which is warm. And here's the amazing thing: every time, how many people are under 20 here? Raise your hand. Many of you have never lied. Okay, there you are. When that young man blames all this global warming on you, maybe he's right. But when you get your freshmen in college, which are, about 20 years old, and they blame all the global warming on you, you say no. Half of the heat that's in the ocean now happened since you were born. That's unbelievable. And how can that be? Well, we burn more stuff because we want more stuff. We're more people. There were less than 2 billion when I was born. Now we're at 7.5 and growing. It's out of control. But it's happening faster and faster. Those are very sobering realities, okay? And now, sea level picked up a couple times. This is the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change of the UN attempt to look at global sea level in response to atmospheric warming and warming ocean. And you can see in the 30s the rate of sea level rise picked up. And then the rate of sea level rise picked up here after about 1990 again. And it's accelerating dramatically now. The first step is because we're warming the oceans. That's, by the way, called steric sea level rise. If you see it in paper or something, it's not a weird word, it just means warming of the ocean. And this is the beginning of ice melting in Greenland and Antarctica. Really significant ice melting. Okay? And even though we have a governor that won't let us talk about sea level rise or climate change or any of those things, and I'm not sure what Trump's up to, but we'll see. I had hopes he would grab this, but he said he wouldn't lie, so I hope he's still. Okay. But since 2009, all the government agencies have had to use meaningful sea level rise projections into all their past, present, and future planning, past being refurbishing. And this is a diagram from 2012, put out by NOAA as part of the U.S. National Climate Assessment. And it had 4 graphs on it. The low historical was, we're already faster than that. That's meaning. They had the intermediate low here that had no ice melt acceleration, so that's not meaningful, because ice melt is an acceleration phenomenon. Just watch the rest of it. And so these are the two in the 2012 they had, and said by the end of the century it would be at 4.1 feet, 1.2 meters, or maybe 2 meters at the highest projections. And of ice melt acceleration. And then on January 19th, the day before inauguration, NOAA put out a revised version of the article, and they added in an extreme projection because we're learning about ice melt feedbacks that are speeding up ice melt. And that was for 2.5 meters, which was 8.2 or something like that. And but let's just look at the 6.6, and that's what I tell the communities to work with right now. Because that could be another 2 feet by 2048. You have king-size flooding already somewhere? Yes. Add 2 feet to that. That'll be your king-size there. Could be 3 feet by 65. This will do in most of the Barrier Islands of the world. It's just going to become too difficult. Okay? And so that's the U.S. government projections. I think it's going to be much higher, but that doesn't matter. It's important that you start dealing with this. Okay, I'll take you down to Miami-Dade and Broward counties here. There's 2 feet, 4 feet, 6 feet. You can see the water encroaching from the Everglades side here. And you can see these low natural channels in our Rulitic limestone looking up. Here's the airport, right here.
Seaport.
Yeah, this is the old Miami River Valley that they drained he's afraid of hits the fan, and that's when people start to leave and you don't collect enough taxes to maintain even what you have. Okay? Those maps are mean high water. They do not include the king tides. Here's Miami Beach a few years ago on a king tide. And here I was out with Elizabeth Colbert, doing art with the New Yorker. We were out looking at multi-million-dollar homes that you had to go through immediate water to get to. And I love this picture. Yep. It's from Broward, but it's like sea level rise is not something that might happen in the future. It's here today. And that's just a beautiful day, you know? That's where it is. That's where we are. Okay? And also those maps don't show you the effect of hurricane. This is Hurricane Ike Category 2.
Crystal Beach.
Is that what it's called? Where's it? There's one house left there. This is just east of Galveston. There's one house left there. And Lynn and I went back. We had a conference in Galveston like 4 years after. It's rebuilt denser than before. FEMA will give you money to rebuild there. They have to change that. And I know it can be taken advantage of if I can take my money and run it. They have computers to keep track of how you're using the system. Isn't that unbelievable? This is Brian showed me the event. This is Hurricane Andrew really affected this area. With a storm surge, it was about 17 feet along where hurricane headquarters were right there. So it didn't affect this area. This is Hurricane Andrew with a plus 3 foot rise of sea level in his model. And you can see it becomes exponential. It's not a 3 foot higher surge. And it comes in the area it affected. It went all the way across Dade County. And a storm surge is not a high tide. I don't know if you've ever seen one. It is a lateral surge of water that will try to remove everything in its path. It's a totally pregnant thing. Okay, so here's Coral Gables where we live. It has a high part and a low part. You can see the low part disappearing, the mangrove part. They built a few developments out there. Here's Turkey Point, our nuclear power plant, where been trying to get 2 new nuclear reactors put in to meet the growing population later in the century. Think about it. Here's Miami International Airport. University of Miami is located right inside that little curve. Very well placed. Here's 4 and 6 feet. These are according to the U.S. government projections when this might happen.
What happened to Turkey Point? I mean, it's an island.
Well, I told them, a couple of feet, you're going to have to defend it from 360 degrees. You have a huge security risk. They've been unmercifully cruel to every one of us, both FPNL and the nuclear power regulatory staff. Anybody tries to criticize it, they're just unmercifully cruel. It's embarrassing. And you think that after what happened, yeah, and
They've been suppressing that stuff all along.
yeah. So, but you can see by now we've lost, and Jim Casey, our former mayor, he's done a 6 inch every 6 inches. What do we have to do to maintain our infrastructure? And he said, wow, this is our first to go, and it's our highest tax base, all those $1 million homes out on the So that's a little sobering. And that's 6 and 4 and 6. Let's go on up because we're going to get there. We've warmed the ocean. We're not going to stop it unless you have a creativity heck of a lot greater than anything else. So here we are at 10 feet, and you realize there's only 9% of the original land that remains, and by 12 feet, there's only 3% remains. So we're ridiculously low compared to even. So. Okay, we started giving talks in Naples because they thought global warming and sea level rise was a Miami problem. The only reason we get the press is apparently we have more value in all these condos and crap we put up. We had 230 high-rise condos under construction last year in Miami-Dade County. Not units, buildings. Wow. We're building like there's no tomorrow. see the sea level rise in Naples. There's the airport, here's US 41. Yeah. It's like, oh, so they're suddenly getting quite interested.
We won't have to worry about our problem.
Well, just don't move to Naples. You know, that's what everybody in Miami did with Hurricane Irma. They said, oh my God, it's coming to us, and they all went over to Naples. And then they had to all get out of there. Okay, here's Fort Myers, Big Laurel, Sanibel, Fort Myers Beach area. That's a 1 foot rise. Here's a 6 foot rise. This website, Climate Central, Surging Sea, go to that if you want to see almost anywhere. They really have a good site. And you can go foot by foot up there. And you go in up to the level you can see your house. Okay, let's come over here. Do you recognize anything?
Yeah.
Okay, the Surging Sea site is hard to get zero, so I usually start somewhere. And you have all this ground that we give anything to have down in Florida. But that's plus 6 feet, and that's plus 10. Oh, yeah. We don't know. We'll talk about that. Yeah, you know, by the way, if we're at plus, let's just say we're at plus 5 feet at the end of the century. Sea level will be rising at a foot per decade and accelerating, okay? So don't think, oh, we have no problem. We only got 5 feet by the end of the century or something like that. No, it's accelerating because we've warmed the ocean, and the warmed ocean is now accelerating ice. Most of us in Florida are underlaid by sand and very porous limestone. And so it's going to be impossible to play the Netherlands or New Orleans and put up levees. And even those levees are going to fail when sea level rise picks up. The Dutch are here everywhere trying to sell you levees. Oh, the mayor keeps saying very interested in what the Dutch have to offer. And the Dutch wanted money so they can help do what they need to do in the Netherlands. Michael Mann's one of the great climate scientists. And he wrote, or the Guardian wrote a quote for him in 2012 as a model. He said, sea ice decline, that's the floating ice in the Arctic, which is very important in keeping the Arctic frozen and northern Greenland frozen, is decades ahead of when models predict. The melting of polar ice sheets on Greenland and the Arctic may occur more rapidly than models previously predicted. We could see disastrous consequences of climate change more sooner than models expect. The models don't have the whole story. They don't have the accelerating feedback we're seeing with isomer. Okay? And that's really important to understand. Okay, let me switch gears for a minute and have a couple slides on our facts. Here was sea level rise 120,000 years ago. 125 to 140,000, 114,000 years. We were on our last interglacial. Sea level was about 20 feet higher. By the way, out in the hallway in the ramp, I have a set of maps, digital maps of elevation of most of the Florida Peninsula. And you can see from zero, where we are today, to 24 feet as part of the rocks. They were done by Peter Harnum, who was one of my students years ago, and he made those at FIU and the guide. So those I like to take everywhere because they're incredibly informative, and spend a few minutes looking at them. But then after this, we went down to the Ice Age, and in the coldest part of the Ice Age, Chicago was under a mile of ice, and our entire continental shelf was exposed. And then we started to warm, and we went with sea level from here to here as the ice sheets melted. And the important thing to looking to the future is how did this happen? All the models think it's going to be like this, or like this, and it's not. It's a series of, well, what we see all across the continental shelves are old reefs, old barrier islands, old coastal wetlands. If they haven't eroded away, while they're out on the shelf. They were abandoned, right? You know, if a reef grows slowly, it's going to struggle to keep up. If you suddenly have a 30-foot rod, it's too deep to keep going. It'll establish a new reef. And the same with the barrier islands. We have a real fast pulse of rise. And what we're seeing is 1 to 10 meters, that's over 30 feet of rise, probably per century, these pulses, as some ice sheet sector rapidly disintegrates. Okay? And that happened all the way through. There were some big ones, and there were some small ones. But even here in Florida, our whole coastal geomorphology is related to these pulses of rise toward the end. Okay? And that's really important, because those are not in the models. So when you look at these models for 6 feet, you say, oh, I wish it was going to be like this, but it looks like it's going to be a pulse. At some point, it's going to let loose. When ice gets weak, it disintegrates. Yes?
Doctor, as the ice melts and it introduces more fresh water in the northern Atlantic, following and everything else, I've been told that the Gulf Stream is slowing down, and that if it, we know from Hurricane Sandy, when it does slow down, we get extraordinarily high tides. So I've heard that if the Gulf Stream stops, that somewhere between 2 and 6 feet, virtually overnight, of sea level rise along the
And we had part of that a few years ago.
Right.
Let me take that as the first question when I'm done, because that's important. Okay? But this is important that these rapid pulses is how it's going to happen. So, okay, here's another diagram. I know you love graphs, but here's another diagram. The sea level is on the bottom, high sea level, low sea level. CO2 is on top, high sea level about 280 down to low sea level about 180 parts per million, up and down every 100,000 years for the last 400,000 years, because we present ourselves to the sun a little differently in about 100,000 year cycle. And that's to do with how circular or elliptical our orbit is. And there are other little cycles. This has been the big one driving the big signal over the last 100,000, over the last million years. Here was the last interglacial. Sea level was right at about 280 parts per million for a long time, and sea level was 20 feet high. And then we went down into this dramatic ice age, down to 180, and then we went up to about 280, and we were holding there when we started the Industrial Revolution. Now, this 180 to 280 caused the sea level rise of about 100 meters up and down. Okay? Ice was actually about 120 meters this last one. It got really cold for a little bit. Okay, since the Industrial Revolution, we have sank carbon dioxide from 280, not to 380, but 405. We've increased by 125 parts per million. What would you expect sea level to be? That's totally arid, totally arid. And because that's not what will happen. Okay, and my suggestion to you is that what we're seeing now, having warmed the ocean, it showed you that we are starting to see a rapidly accelerating ice melt, and as a result, we're going to have a rapidly accelerating sea level rise. Okay, and I don't think there's any way to turn this around because we've warmed the ocean. We have to stop doing this. We have to stop putting carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. Scientists say, and serious scientists say, that if we stop today, worldwide, burning fossil fuel, the atmosphere will continue to warm because of the extra greenhouse gases for another 30 years. But that carbon dioxide is not going anywhere. It's probably there for another 4,000 years. Okay? It's not something that gets used up when it creates heat. It's still sitting there. And that heat is going to be for centuries warming the ocean. Okay? So to put it simply, we're pretty well in for it. And so there are a bunch of things, like you mentioned, there are regional things that affect sea level. These are sort of the global ones. Continued warming of the world's ocean. We might get another 8 inches this century out of that. expands water. We have accelerating ice melt of alpine glaciers, what's left of them. That will add another 6 or 7 inches probably. But the big ones, the big direct one is rapidly accelerating ice melt of the Greenland ice sheet and the West Antarctic ice sheet. And the one that you might think is important is the Arctic pack ice cover, the floating ice in the Arctic is rapidly diminishing. But that's so important because it is resulting in melting of the permafrost, which is releasing all this organic matter that's trapped in the ice and the permafrost. And that's decaying and releasing CO2 and methane. And out on the Siberian shelf, in the shelf sediment, is something called methane hydrates, which is a methane molecule with a water ice cage around it. And shrimpers drag it up and you can set fire to it. And that's now melting as the seas are warming. Can I finish, or do you need it now?
Well, it relates to this. Could you just say a few words about the difference between melting pack ice and melting ice that's on land, on the effect of the...
Well, melting ice on land and having it wash into the ocean is like throwing blocks of ice into your bathtub. It changes the level. Melting ice that's floating in the Arctic Ocean, except for one physicist who wrote an article, will not change sea level. Because it's just like in your glass, you know, if you have an almost full glass with ice in it, it won't flow over. There was one physicist that took that as a challenge and proved that there was a little change in environment, but that's okay. Okay, but this is really, really important because the methane release could get out of hand and create something absolutely more catastrophic than what we're doing. Tonight, I was asked to keep it somewhat short. So I only have like 4 or 5 slides of the ice story, but I can come back anytime you do it. The big story is that in this area in the West Antarctic ice sheet, the Pine Island glacial outlet and the Thwaites glacial outlet are warmed ocean water around here, as predicted by increased wind shear going around Antarctica, is causing upwelling, and this warm water is going in deep under the ice. Okay, and they've also found in the East Antarctic ice sheet that it's happening now too through the Tokyo glacial outlet. But I mean the water going in. They found the water's going over 100 miles in under this ice sheet, and here it's going farther. The story is sort of this is a cartoon, but here's the ocean, here's the ice, here's the atmosphere. Here's either rock or gravel sill, and in good old times, the ice was banked against it, and some would squeeze out, ice sort of plastic, even though it's a crystal. And then we start to warm the ocean water, and that melts, and then that happens to get in further and further. The problem with this ice, the weight of the ice has pushed the land in, weakening. So the melting gets easier and easier. And so as this melts under here, it's no longer grounded, and it's free to move. There are 2 ways ice can thin. One is by melting it. The other is called dynamic thinning, and that's when you have like a stack of books on the table, and all of a sudden they go, right, and split out. That happens. One of the big concerns for the future, as ice melt reaches farther and farther back in here, and the ice is higher and higher, it's about these ice cliffs, because some of those are going to be 1,000 feet or more in height. Ice can only hold up maybe 200 feet of elevation, 250, and then it'll just collapse. So as we dig further back in, through melting and detaching things from the bottom and things break off, we may see an unbelievably rapid collapse of the ice behind just pouring out. This is what not, of course, not in the model, and this is what we can't put in the model, because we're only modeling how ice behaves and doing what observations we can. So, and it's interesting, if you take the ice off Greenland, it gets very deep here over Antarctica. It's over 3,000 meters in depth here, and it gets deep in here too. So the potential to do real damage is amazing. melt the West Antarctic ice sheet, that's about 25 feet or so. If we melt here, that's big. But Greenland also has its problems. It has the same problems I described from Antarctica, but Antarctica is still frozen pretty much on the surface. Greenland's a little farther south, and though it rises up, the ice rises up to over 10,000 feet in elevation, the summers have been warm enough that the surface is starting to melt from the atmosphere. And this picture here is very sobering, because this shows, basically, it's a map of the decrease in reflectivity of the ice. It's a map of the buildup of dark stuff that was incorporated in the ice that's concentrating on the surface, which absorbs heat and speeds up the ice melt. And as this happens, the elevation gets lower and lower, and that speeds up the ice melt. There are all these feedbacks that, yeah, they just keep going. And, yeah, and it's starting to move faster as the meltwaters get down in, and the ice actually softened, and they didn't realize that the ice that was warm, sort of like hard water and soft water, even though it's a crystal. Okay, and that's speeding up the melt because the meltwaters get down in. There was an article came out that said if I had a big block of ice like Greenland, I could melt it in about 1,000 years if I started melting. If I fractured every 20 meters, I could melt it in a couple of decades. Okay? Don't underestimate the acceleration of ice. Okay? And Lynn and I had a chance twice to go to the Lusat, which is right here near the Jacob Shaven ice sewer. That's just adjacent to the ice sheet. This is Greenland without the ice on. The ice begins where the blue is. But these deep fjords extend in, way into the interior of Greenland against the weights pushed down by the weight of the ice. Okay, so that's a big concern. And if you want more on those, Lynn and I have been up there twice. It's the most amazing place. And you can stay in a 4-star hotel. And if you take somebody along a lot of money, charter some helicopters and go all around. It's pretty cool. Yeah. Last time carbon dioxide levels were where they are today, sea level was 70 to 90 feet higher than it is today. That's not a model. That's what's looking at our past. So that's where we haven't been anywhere like this for the last 5 million years. And if we go up to 425 or so, we won't have been at that level since about 25 million years. And that's why when you go up to Lake Placid and all those places up in the spine of Florida, and you look and you see this coarse beach sand, those are all beaches. Everywhere as you drive west, beach right there over the beach. Yep, you just climb up one after another. Okay? There are many people. Jim Hansen is one of our most outstanding scientists, and he climate scientist. And he's a modeler, but he's far beyond that. He spoke to Congress and the Senate in 1980 and said where we'd be in 2000. He was right on. He has been arrested a couple times. He was working with the government, but he was arrested a couple times for protesting the use of coal because he realizes it's such a dirty fuel. It's producing so much carbon dioxide for the amount of energy. But he has written several papers saying, amplifying feedbacks make ice sheet disintegration necessarily highly nonlinear. The 10-year doubling time of sea level rise is plausible. Such a doubling time from a 1 millimeter per year in the 2005 2015 period would lead, double that every decade, would lead to a cumulative 5 meter sea level rise by 2095. Sort of a cool unseen investment. The problem is we're running ahead of that projection, just working at it. And this is a graph of the amount of ice change. Okay, and you can see the massive ice build up in the winter on Greenland and melt. things are gonna be changing. Many areas of Florida, if we have 6 feet by the end century, people are gonna move on. You get a talk in Jacksonville saying, you better be ready. You better put aside your groundwater resources, your natural areas, do some planning for a rapid influx. Because there are 140 people, you know. Team, I don't want to live in Beaverton, but whatever. We won't be able to stay down there. And something never mentioned, cleaning the land before inundation. Never mentioned. What are we gonna leave our kids? Dumps that are falling apart in the ocean, spreading their crap, industrial waste sites that make it unsafe to go fishing for miles around. Yeah. Okay, and if we don't, we're gonna have catastrophic chaos. You know, it's hard enough. I always look at civilization as held together by a very delicate thread. And, but if we don't, we're gonna have chaos, huge numbers of dislocated indigents. We are gonna be the Okies of Florida. I don't know what are we, closing, whatever, when we go up, but we couldn't sell a house or on streets of land. Yeah, and polluted wetland and marine environments we leave behind. Okay, thank you. If anybody wants a copy of this, we can probably download it onto that. There's some other stuff about what communities and people should do.
Dr. Wallace, can you take a few more questions?
I can take as many as you want. First,
You got some timelines, but.
I was asked about changing the speed of the Gulf Stream. Okay, let's see. I'll look at you try to do this. The Florida current and the Gulf Stream come up and they go around. And you think of it going around and around and around, but the westerlies and easterlies down here, we're talking Phillies current coming across. About half that water in the good old times would go off from the Gulf Stream up on actually mostly the east side of Greenland, but both sides of Greenland, where this warm salty water would get cold and part of it would freeze and the frozen pack ice would drip its salt out into this already salty water below. And that water would sink, and that formed the deep water of the world's oceans. It would go south in the Atlantic, take a left, and in 1,500 years, we'd get over the Pacific and come back up. And do the same cycle, coming back on the surface and going down. About half of the Gulf Stream and Florida current flow coming by us is to replace the water that's sunk. Well, there are two things that can happen. One is that if we put too much fresh water in that system, and this has happened in the past, as we're coming out of the last glacier, we dump out the St. Lawrence a huge amount of the meltwater from what's now the Great Lakes, just shot out. And that's surrounded Greenland by fresh water. So what happens in the winter? Fresh water freezes, doesn't sink. So there's no reason that you can't pull water up to replace something that doesn't sink. We're now increasing the amount of meltwater coming out of Greenland quite dramatically. And we're seeing a dramatic slowdown in the formation of bottom waters. They're called little towers because they go to a place and they just sort of go down another one if you want. And that's called changing distribution of mass balance. Think of this huge pile of ice on Greenland and Antarctica. That's so big that it pulls water toward it, gravitational attraction to the land. As that's melting, the gravitational attraction is weak. And they say for every 4 feet of sea level rise that we have, you're probably going to have to add a foot to redistribution of mass in the areas far away, like New York, Miami. Okay, so there are a lot of other things that are important. Miami Beach has had magnificent, terrible flooding, and I look at it, because they're unfilled, it's mud, and they covered over the organic soils of the mangroves, and that's compacting and rotting and stuff. So they've created part of it. Yes, sir.
Comment on what you said here regarding the potential future of Everglades restoration, and specifically our river.
Yeah, that's why I was invited up to Tallahassee twice to the Everglades Committee. They were, I think, looking for a reason not to fund it. Let's think about it. We have millions of people that live down here, from here south, that get our drinking water from that. Now, once you're down below Lake Okeechobee, below Palm Beach, we get it out of the upper aquifer. And if we restore the Everglades, which if it equals building up the water levels so you can build up the peak to serve as a sponge through the drier seasons and to have extra water through the dry seasons, so it doesn't dry out and burn and maintains a habitat. You know, if that's what Everglades restoration is, we'll be able to have fresh water much, for our personal selfish selves, much farther into this century than we would if we didn't have Everglades restoration. So from a purely selfish point of view, we'll be able to save millions of dollars because we do have cheap water. And I don't know, that's a selfish way to look at it, but I think it's a valid one. Because otherwise, I say, oh, let it go, it's going to go anyhow. No, don't. The other thing is, we learn how to manage the Everglades to hold on to it as long as we can. We're going to learn how to manage rapidly evolving coastal wetland systems. And that's what we're in for centuries. We don't know where this is going to stop. And those are two totally different reasons than the original intent. Let's get back to happy Everglades. Yeah, that's how I do it. Yes, Mike?
Well, I think one more question if we can.
Yes, since I'm only 20 years old, I have a question.
It's still half your fault.
My girlfriend is with Greenpeace, and she said, because of the increase in electric cars and solar and the less coal mining, that the ozone layer is slowly closing a little bit. Do you agree with that?
I don't know, but it probably is.
Well, I mean, she was talking about the ozone layer.
Chlorofluorocarbons are the one molecule of chlorofluorocarbon does to the global warming work of 20,000 molecules of carbon dioxide. Chlorofluorocarbons that cause that are powerful greenhouse gas. In some ways, I think it's related. We have to have somebody who knows. I've heard it's related. I mean, we should do that. And we did that so easily. Why can't we do this so easily?
Right.
This is so ridiculous. This is not a partisan thing. If you're a Democrat, you should learn to talk to those that are Democrats, and if you're Republicans or deniers, you should listen. Learn to listen to people. I have a lot of close friends that are strong Republicans, that they understand the seriousness of climate change. They understand science. And this is all about us. This isn't about those folk. This is about all right.
Dr. Wallace, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'm going to have a little part
My name is Deborah Drum. I'm the Assistant Manager for Martin County. It is a pleasure to be here tonight. I feel like my report is very insignificant after that. But I'll do my best. I have 9 slides. I'm trying to make it a little more visual and interesting for you all. But first of all, just to report that this year's wet season from the beginning of June through the end of October, that's what this map is showing, included 51.64 inches of rain district-wide throughout the 16 county area of the Water Management District. That's 150% of average rainfall. So just to put in some perspective, and those of you who still have water in your swales, you can stop calling me because we have 150% of average rainfall. And just for the month of November so far, there's been 1.39 inches district-wide, which is only 67% of normal rainfall if you look at the whole 16 county area. But in Martin County, you've noticed it's raining tonight, we've had a lot of rain, we had 120 to 150% of normal rainfall within the month of November. These numbers are even going to go up. And that this kind of shows you for the month of November how Martin County here, some areas of eastern Broward, how we were some of the big winners with rainfall. So it hasn't really stopped for us. We're waiting for the dry season to begin and I'm ready. The lake releases began on September the 15th. So that's give or take about 76 days of discharges as we were experiencing right now. And this was as a couple days ago, but as I sit here right now, it says the lake stage is 16.21. It's actually 16.17 as we sit here. 1 year ago, the lake was at 14.8 feet, and that's so it's about 1.37 feet lower last year on this day than it is right now. Typically, the Army Corps of Engineers likes to have the lake levels fluctuate between 12.5 feet in the beginning of the wet season, which is around June 1st, and have it go up to 15.5 feet at the beginning of the dry season, which is about November 1st. So you can see how, where we're at. We're a little high compared to where they would like to be. But because we have projections, I have a map in here that I'll show you a little later, but we're currently getting at S80, 2,800 cubic feet per second into the estuary. And if you look at where they want to be at the beginning of June in preparing for the wet season, I did some back of the envelope calculations, and when you look at how much of a recession rate you can get on Lake Okeechobee, I did request to the Corps through a call that we have all the agencies and all the counties on the phone. I did request that the current releases of 2,800 CFS be reduced to a range of either 1170 to 1,800 CFS at S80, which would be inclusive of all the basin flows that come in from the C-44. And so typically we should know where they land on that decision probably tomorrow. I'm feeling optimistic. I'm hoping that they'll see it our way because the projections for rainfall in the next month to 3 months, everything is getting firmer that we're going to have below average rainfall. And so the agricultural community and other water users start to get concerned about having enough water throughout the whole dry season to be able to have for their crops. And so we get some support that way too of making sure that we're not putting ourselves in a water supply situation. So keep your fingers crossed for reducing the flows. As Bart can attest to, and I'm sure we'll talk about, when we get below 2,000 CFS, we start to see really great improvements in the estuary, and we can start to get to somewhat of a recovery for some of the salinity ranges and hopefully get some oyster work done. So that's what's happening. Something I wanted to point out to you is that when we get water from Lake Okeechobee compared with the Caloosahatchee, we get extremely turbid lake water. And you can see this is a turbidity that is from 80 to 136. Right in this area in the last couple days, based on Orca and Harbor Branch data, it was about 86 NTUs. Anything above 25 or so is pretty bad. It's pretty turbid and nasty water. So you can see that effect of some of the lake water coming through, or maybe it's C-44 basin has something special in it, but the water that's coming through this area, we're getting really, really turbid water. And so we have to be very aggressive about asking the Corps to reduce those flows as much as possible, which was the basis for the request yesterday. To contrast, the turbidity over in the emergent vegetation. And the lake, and so it gets cleaned and cleansed before it gets out to the Coosawhatchee. But not to minimize the problems on the lake right now. This high lake level has been extremely damaging to the plants on the lake. The people who are concerned about the ecology of the lake want the lake to reduce, but I do think that all conditions are sort of starting to line up with the drier conditions to have all of us hopefully be winners, to have reduced flows to the estuaries as well as getting that lake level down. And we will see how that all turns out. So, but I wanted to contrast, when we get lake releases, it's not, they get a lot more water than we do. And someone mentioned about how fresh water, even if it was really, really clean, too much of it is a bad thing, and it really disrupts the ecology. That's absolutely true. That absolutely happens in the Coosawhatchee. They get tons more water than we do. But the water that we get is pretty injurious. And I was talking about the precipitation probability outlooks. This is a 1-month outlook, and this is a 3-month outlook, and this is what we use to kind of get an idea of what's going on in regulation schedules for Lake Okeechobee. So you can see that brown means it's going to be more on the drier end. It has a higher probability of being drier, and so the Corps also uses that to make their decisions. So completely switching gears, I've been talking about the All-American Ditch Project, which we also call the St. Lucie Shores Project. And we've completed that project. It's a $5 million project. This was a parcel of land before. This was in 2007. So this is the before picture. So this neighborhood was draining to the St. Lucie River untreated. And we had a negotiation for a land swap with the South Florida Water Management District, who owned this parcel. And where they were looking to surplus it, and we had some joint ownership of some lands out in Alapata. So we negotiated a land swap and gave them full ownership. They gave us full ownership of this, so we could build this. Where is this? This is on Map Road, south of 714. And it's and I'm happy to take anybody out there for a tour that would be interested to come check it out. Just give me a call. But you've got this stormwater treatment area that has kind of a deeper water area. There's a pipe that connects it here. This was an existing wetland that we protected as part of the project. And then it goes through here and out to the river clean for once.
Nice.
This was the second most polluted tributary to the St. Lucie estuary. And this is the kind of projects that we build in Martin County to help alleviate some of the local problems. And there was some flooding problems here that we were able to get some improved flooding conditions in the community. That was also kind of an ancillary benefit. And now my last slide, just to completely change gears. This is our these are bills that we filed at the legislative level at the state. And these are appropriations requests that we've made for water projects. You can see we've got some water control weirs, some water quality projects like the one I just showed you, some septic to sewer conversions, and mostly water quality projects. So I just wanted to let you know that we have our new Chloe Zieberger is our new legislative coordinator for Martin County. She's doing an outstanding job. She's been in Tallahassee representing us well. We've gotten great cooperation. We'd like to give a great shout out to Representative Harrell, Representative Magar, who have been our champions in the House to get these filed, as well as Senator Debbie Mayfield, who has also helped us on the Senate side to get these moved into committee. And that's all I have, and I thank you for your interest in this.
Tell us what's happening with the C-44 STA and reservoir.
Yeah, it's really, really exciting. If you haven't been keeping up with that project, but the Water Management District has been doing an outstanding job, and the Corps has too, but the Water Management District really went out there to take the bull by the horns and get some really good progress. So that STA has been under construction, and they're making great progress. It's on schedule, I believe, for completion in 2019, 2020 to be operational. So things are looking really good at C-44, and we are thrilled to see the progress, and we are also extremely thrilled to see that the Florida Department of Environmental Protection's budget this year has requests that move forward other components of the Indian River Lagoon South project, which includes C-23 and C-24 reservoirs and STAs. Those are also very essential. So seeing that kind of momentum and progress, we're thrilled about that.
Thanks.
Thank you very much. Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, Brandon, would you like to
I'm
give
sorry,
the
what?
self-award management perspective?
It's on here, I'm gonna transfer it onto mine.
Mike's up there.
Thank you.
Mike's just up there.
I get called small. Hard job. Well, good evening, everybody. Thank you, Deborah, for that update. I'm going to add real quick, maybe the chairman for the opportunity to speak to everyone. The C-44 project, let me back up a little bit. If you don't know, Calkins Water Farm opened here in the past couple of months, and that's an exciting project. It's a public-private partnership. It's about a 3,400 acre project, and I'm not going to be able to remember the numbers. Deborah, if you happen to, she's talking to somebody, if you happen to have those numbers with you, how much water retreated at Calkins, there's a great video that Calkins just put on YouTube a few days ago that you can go watch, and it talks all about it. But it's a 3,400 acre project that's treating water in the basin, so that's huge stuff here in Martin County. The C-44 project, which is a joint partnership project between the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers and the South Florida Water Management District. As you all probably know, the district is responsible for the water quality side, which is the stormwater treatment areas, and the Army Corps is responsible for the water storage side, which is the deep water reservoirs. The pump station is about $40 million pump station there at C-44 coming out of your taxpayer dollar. Will be completed next year. The stormwater treatment area will start receiving water. We actually had to allocate about $2.7 million 2 months ago out of our state dollars because of delays with the Army Corps on the federal side for the reservoir. So we had to do some retrofitting of those pumps to be able to use that STA. The problem I have with that is a couple things. One, with that project, the STA is only 20% of your treatment. The reservoir that the Army Corps of Engineers is building is 80% of your treatment, and that's going to be in that 2020 timeframe that Deborah was referring to. So that's going to take a little longer to come online. And I've also made sure in discussing with staff, I actually had them go back for 5 years and find out every time that the state of Florida, our taxpayer dollars, have had to go and correct the federal mistake, and to make sure that we're also reimbursing those issues, because there's no reason for them to be making mistakes that are costly and taking too much time, and then we're having to allocate state dollars and making sure we get those dollars back. So understand that as your representative there, I'm constantly watching those issues for you on your behalf. We'll continue to question staff, make sure that they're on the ball, doing what we need to do. Outside the C-44 and the Calkins Water Project in Martin County, obviously we have all the work we're doing in the Senate Bill 10 in the EA Reservoir down south of Lake Okeechobee. I've had several meetings with Senate President Nabron, who I've known for many, many years, I have great deal of respect for. We've had several conversations. His biggest concern was making sure that our agency was doing what it's supposed to be doing to implement Senate Bill 10. I think if you go to our website and you see what we're doing there, as far as being transparent with all of you, showing what we're doing, we've had, I know Mr. Perry's probably been at every Scopie meeting. I've watched them online, but I believe I've seen him at every single meeting, and there's been a lot of them. And I think we have one board meeting coming up next week on December the 5th that all of you can attend as the public. But I can tell you that on top of a myriad of other projects that this agency, understand that the South Florida Water Management District is the second largest water control district on the planet, second to the Danes government. And the Everglades Restoration Project that we're in charge of is the largest ecosystem restoration project on the planet. And those are just a few things that we're doing. So when we talk about the EA Reservoir, when we talk about Lake Okeechobee Watershed Project, we're planning on a 15,000 acre board in Lake County. On and on and on, I could talk to you for a long time. But understand we're taking a 3-year process and putting it down to 1 year because that's what Senate Bill 10 told us to do. And our staff is doing a tremendous amount of work. These people are working very, very diligently, very, very hard. I'm working to make sure that I can do everything I can do representing you to make sure that work's being done correctly and efficiently. But it is a big, big task that we're taking in a very short amount of time. And then getting the federal government to stay in step with us is a whole nother process and a whole nother challenge that we face. And so I thank you, all of you, for what you do, for the the diligence that you have in this community. Knowing the issues, we need to stay on our legislative delegation, we need to stay on our state representatives, our senators, our people in the federal government, making sure that they do their part. Because we have to be doing this together if we're ever going to make any progress. And this is very, 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 very important. This is not a light thing. And I appreciate how much you all understand that, because in a lot of places that I say that, I don't think they do as much as the people in the room. So if you have any questions for me, I'm here. I will do my best to answer them, and if you're tired of hearing me talk, I'll listen.
Dr. Brandon, thank you very much for coming out.
Yeah, absolutely.
Paul Gray?
Paul, I don't have much to say. Well, I'm Paul Gray from Ottawa. So everybody knows the lake's still too deep and there's big estuary releases. And so what happened to us is still happening. We're still getting harmed. The systems are still going downhill. The bad news is that the projections are if we have an average rain year between now and June 1st, the lake would drop to about 14.5 feet. And if that's all the lower it gets, the Corps doesn't want it to go above 17.25. You think about what Urban did, it raised it 3.5 feet in 1 month. And so if you put 3.5 feet on 14.5, it put us at 18 feet. And so that's the problem, is if we can't get the lake down by June, then we're going to be really close to big releases right off the bat when it starts raining in the summer. As Deb said, it's going to be dry, and hopefully it'll get the lake down lower, but we're just in a really bad spot. It gets back to building this reservoir, it gets back to building the Lake Through the Watershed Project, and all these other projects that Brandon was talking about. Until we do that, this is our world. So we've got a lot more suffering to go, but we've got some hope and some projects we need to support. So thanks.
Thanks, Paul. The body that makes this all possible.
Thanks for the introduction. I'm Charles Grandy, and I preside over the Legal Defense Fund. I did want to mention now that Brandon is here today, shortly after he was appointed, Darrell, Mark, and myself had lunch with him. And it was no different than any other introductory lunch with an important personage. And one of the things that he said to me at the lunch was, look, I mean, if you have any questions, if you need any help, just give me a call. And me being me, within the first 2 weeks, I think I called him 3 times with questions. And the report is, I got answers back really quickly, and the answers really made a lot of sense. So I'm really encouraged to have Brandon on the governing board, and I look forward to his help. The other thing I wanted to mention while you're here is, as an organization, we are totally behind SB 10 and the EAA reservoir. And at not the last scoping meeting, but the next to last scoping meeting, while we were there, one of your staff members happened to mention that there were some negotiations going on with potentially willing sellers. And it's a realistic possibility. It's not a sure thing, but it is a possibility that the land available for the reservoir and the cleaning areas may wind up being a little bit larger than A1 plus A2, which is the best news we could have, because the more land that we have for the reservoir, 2 things, it doesn't need to be as deep, and it will handle more water. As long as we can keep the dynamic flow through the reservoir, it's the best chance we've got. The last thing I wanted to mention today was, I think most people may have read Carl Wickstrom's son, Blair Wickstrom, did an op-ed. And at the end of the op-ed, he asked people to get in touch with him if they agreed with him. And his major point was that most of the local business organizations here are not really supportive of the project that will stop the discharges. And they seem to be supportive of diverting funds into other things, which are, for the most part, red herrings as far as our problems are concerned. So if you agree, I would suggest his email address is in the article. Let him know. It would be really good for the folks at the Economic Development Council and the folks at the Chamber to see that we do have other alternatives to keep growing here, to keep business active. We don't need to have a business community that is working against the benefits here on the Treasure Coast. So I want to personally thank Blair for what he's done, and I want to encourage everybody, get in touch with him and let him know he's right, and it really is a real possibility. Thank you.
Blair's article is up on our Facebook page. It's there, so look for it there, the link.
Mark.
Okay, I'm up for local conditions. Estuary water quality, as you know, the water quality's been very, very poor ever since, like Deb Drum said, since the middle of September. Actually, since mid-June, we had normal rainfall kind of during the wet season from mid-June on, and then it got really bad, of course, after Irma. But the destruction continues. It's not stopping. And the thing we have to do is continue to put forward the fact that we need some other outlet for the lake water to go rather than to these coastal estuaries. The salinities are so bad, the oysters have really gone down to about 99% mortality in October 25th when we were out here sampling. So oysters can't stand over 28 days of freshwater conditions, and as you heard, it's been over 76 days. So those freshwater conditions alone diminish the oyster reefs, the seagrass beds in the outer estuary, and as you saw, the turbidity cuts the light level even not only to the grasses that are trying to get sunlight to grow, seagrasses, but also in the outer reefs offshore, the nearshore reefs, the St. Lucie Inlet State Preserve Reef, and other corals that need sunlight to grow are not getting that sunlight because of that extra turbidity. The outlet south, and as you saw Deb put up that kind of outlet call that was on Tuesday's call, you saw basically zero going south. Okay, that we have canals that do go south and they go to the east, but there was zero outlet to the south. And they haven't put any water south for a long, long time. From May through about, through October, the district reported that about 418 billion gallons of water went through the stormwater treatment areas and into the water conservation areas, and filled them up about 1.5 or 2 feet above schedule. So they're grounding tree islands south of the EAA. That 418 billion gallons was from the EA's drainage basin. And they've kept that down to about 9.5 to 10 feet in elevation. What only 7 billion gallons went from Lake Okeechobee into the water conservation areas south. So we've cut off that south flow. There's no south flow. And that's why we need this reservoir. We need storage, treatment, and movement of water south. The EA storage reservoir system that was mentioned, and we've been working on this, is being fast-tracked. We're all attending these meetings. We're all putting in comments. They had comment period by November 22nd. Our organization, a lot of Everglades Coalition, other organizations put in comments. The next meeting, December 5th, is a big one on the model and scoping. The law requires them to look at A2 as a storage treatment, and then also can recommend A2 and A1. Those two components together are what we need to recommend. They use, as Charles mentioned, or somebody mentioned, the whole entire EA storage area, the A1 and the A2 need to be used at a lower, shallower depth, along with stormwater treatment areas enough to treat that water to get it south. It can move south. It should move south from the lake rather than dump in the estuary. Is it going to be the solving all the problems? If we can get this EA reservoir constructed in the next 5 or 6 years or so, that would be great, but it's not going to solve all the problem. The other components of SERP need to be done north of the lake, that storage, the Lake Okeechobee watershed, east and west of the lake, and south. We need that component south. Fortunately, everybody put pressure enough to get that moving, to get this thing in place and get it moving quicker than waiting till 2022 to start planning. So this is going forward. We're excited about that, but I am not giving up on this estuary, and neither should any of us. There are some on the west coast that say, well, you've already destroyed the estuary so bad, just go ahead and dump the rest of the water out and let it go. We can't, and we can't keep wasting the water. If you put a dollar value on it, it reaches about just at 1.7 billion gallons a day that we normally put out, not counting what we're putting out right now, which is about 5 billion gallons a day east and west. That 1.7 billion equates to about $2.2 billion a year. Now, that's a lot of cost of money for just water. So not even counting the pollution it's causing, let's just look at the water value that's going to tide. And if you all recall, back in April, we were in a water shortage, and our governor was declaring an emergency in April because we were in a water shortage. And that could very well happen this coming dry season. So we feel for the lake. We want the lake to be held as a natural body of water fluctuating, and not as this reservoir that keeps damming up because it can't go south and keep dumping it east and west. So I know that's my soapbox, and I'll kind of get off of that. But, the local conditions are bad, and don't go in the water. There's high bacteria levels. There's very high content of all kinds of other damaging factors. There's no toxic algae blooms. There were some in the lake, but they didn't actually make it out before this discharge. So we're not seeing toxic algae. It's not visible. But please don't go, come in contact with that water, especially if you have open sores or cuts or wounds. And if you do have some conditions, please report them immediately. The Mark County Health System is wanting to get reports if you're affected by those kind of health issues, so they can post more advisories. But for me and all of us living here in this community, it's a shame that we have to deal with this kind of water quality. It's absolutely atrocious fact that we should have to deal with this water quality. Everybody living on here, when I moved here, my parents did years back, waterfront property was the highest value ever. You go to sell waterfront property today on this polluted river, and it's diminished so much, it's incredible. So that's another loss that's happening, because economic loss because of that. So I'll go on, but just to mention, if you have any local conditions or observations of fish kills or algae blooms or anything, please give us a call. Let us know. We've got great water testers out there, 40 water testers out there doing it weekly. We're going to get back into their storm oyster reefs and seagrass. We've got a seagrass nursery and oyster hatchery and all, but we can't get in the water to even do this. We can't take kids out. We have Indiantown kids come over. We can't get them out in the water because of the potential for them getting infected. So it's really dangerous.
Will you mention the conference in January?
I will, but that may come up later as membership announcements. Just to know that the Everglades Coalition Conference happening at Hutchinson Island Marriott, January, and I believe it's January 13th, 14th, and through 12th, 13th, and 14th. So go online at evergladescoalition.org. I just have a few of these programs up here, but it's a great conference. It's going to be right here. A lot of the NGOs, a lot of this information, a lot of the Corps of Engineers, the district, everybody come together and talk about these big issues. Yep, symposium, Indian River Event Symposium.
Thank you, Mark.
January, I don't remember the name of the Yacht Country Club, but in Palm City in January, it's their annual meeting. There's like 150 people there, and we will be their keynote speakers, Todd and I. It's a pretty good responsibility to represent all of you before them. I take it very seriously. Something I take seriously is how dirty the damn water is. You can't go touch it. 50 yards away, there's big old U.S. sugar signs at both the entrances to the Jensen Beach Pineapple Festival. I think that's obscene. I'll be working on a fundraiser. It'll probably happen in January. There's not enough time in between now and then, except for maybe a little one. I've been mowing the poop plant Bureau that dumped 3 million gallons. They don't lose that one very often. Usually it's the cocoa plant. They lose about a million gallons a year into the Banana River Lagoon, which of course is pretty much landlocked. January 11th, Thursday, the opening day for Everglades Coalition. I spoke with Chris Costello. She came over. Sierra is running this, and of course we here will be the hosts. What I was hoping was that a bunch of us, all of our organizations, NGOs, everybody involved, from Florida Oceanographic to Smithsonian to Orca to Indian River Keeper to the Conservation Alliances, everybody get together on that Thursday, say from about 2 to 6, welcome everybody to our end of the lagoon. We are hosts of one of the most important meetings that happens every year. And it's been 6, 7, 8 years since we've had it here. This would be an opportunity for us to shine. We're the most educated advocates in all of the state of Florida, here in Martin and St. Lucie County. We work hard at that. From our river kids to our river warriors to all the people that have spent all of this time here and in other places learning about our ecosystems and our environment and what we need for our watershed. This would be a chance for us to open arms, welcome all of these people to our house. So I'll be reaching out to everybody. Hopefully you'll consider, this is not a political thing, this is a celebration of the Southern Lagoon in Martin County, and that we are the host. So I'd like to welcome everybody to our house in January. Thank you.
Marty, I want to thank people on behalf of the River Solutions. The Computer Network Solutions is here. Thank you very much for your donations and your Connie Manning, sorry, that's her last name. Connie delivered a handout that was on every other seat with regards to the Arkham County Wildlife Refuge and the proposals that this administration has to drill in it. There's postcards in the back to connect with your legislators. It also is true that there is pressure to do offshore drilling along the coast of Florida, and that would be devastating for a lot of that region. Thank you all. I hope you have a very Merry Christmas, and we look forward to seeing you in the new year.
I hate to say this, but while we were all wrapped with this really, really interesting meeting, Maggie has slipped into the back of the room.
So just to say too, I've known Hal Wanless for many, many years, and I was kind of the one that helped ask him years ago to come to the Everglades Coalition. Back, it's kind of depressing to watch where we are and what's going to happen in the future with sea level rise and climate change. The thing that we can do is to curb our pollution of the system any way we can, and any way you can to reduce that carbon footprint or carbon dioxide emission, or to fight for it in any venue, either individually or collectively. Please do. We did mention that the ocean is absorbing that carbon dioxide and it's turning into carbonic acid. And the pH of the ocean is going down and being more acidic. It's now dissolving the shells in oysters and other foraminifera and little smaller animals. So that's going to happen and accelerate a big change in the ocean dynamics in the biota of the ocean. So we're very concerned even about that ocean acidification that's happening. So I'm really encouraging everybody to just do what you can. And I guess Sherry has one more.
Oh, please.
Yeah, I'd like to mention, I had spoken to Dr. Wanless a few years ago, and I used to teach a course called Society and Environment in the 1990s. And I think it's important now to say that if those of us who are paying attention, we're being bombarded with a bunch of bad news. But on the other part of that is, some people talk about this being the great work of our era. So we can wake up every day and say we have meaning and purpose. There's things we can accomplish. We can't solve all the problems, but we can certainly, like Mark was saying, is that we can look at where we live, we can do what we can, and I know that it can get very depressing, but it's the way that we go on is by getting up every day and saying we can make a difference, and I think that this group certainly has.
Just by being here, you're making a difference. By being aware and by being committed, you're making a difference. And I thank you. Our next meeting is going to be January 25th, and look forward to seeing you then. Thank you.